Welcome. This is Jean Eden of Information Managers. It is my honor and pleasure to be with you today for Practice Management Nuggets. This is a weekly interview series with practice managers, healthcare providers, or trusted vendors who support healthcare practices. Our topics help primary care practice managers, healthcare providers, and owners to implement, maintain, or improve their businesses and practice administration so that healthcare providers can focus on providing quality healthcare services. I am your host, Jean Eden, the Practice Management Mentor with Information Managers. And this week, our guests are Brian Lee and Bruce Lee of Custom Learning Systems Group Limited. We are delighted to have Brian and Bruce with us. And Brian Lee is the founder and CEO of Custom Learning Systems Group and the Healthcare Service Excellence Conference. He has been awarded the designation CPS, which is a certified speaking professional by the National Speakers Association. With headquarters in Calgary, Canada, Brian has led his team of training professionals for 30 years, focused exclusively on healthcare. And 27 of their clients have earned regional and national awards for world-class patient and employee loyalty. Brian is the author of a number of books, including an upcoming book on hospital of choice, and is recognized as one of North America's leading experts in the field of patient, employee, and physician loyalty. And in fact, Brian is known as Mr. Healthcare Mr. Loyalty. Bruce Lee is also with us on the line today, so we have two guest speakers. Bruce Lee is an event speaker, productivity coach, MC, and author. And he has a new book coming out, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, too. As a former business owner, prior to becoming a full-time speaker for over the past 24 years, Bruce brings a hands-on approach to productivity and employee retention issues and has contributed to the high level of healthcare training for 9 years. As an implementation specialist for Custom Learning Systems, he enjoys working with healthcare clients all across North America to achieve higher levels of client, patient, and staff satisfaction. It is my great pleasure to start our new year with Brian and Bruce. Welcome.
Happy New Year, Jean.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
It is the new year, and patient satisfaction is one of the great New Year's resolutions for businesses. I was introduced to you with Dave Rodwell from Rodwell Security, who is a mutual friend and a guest, and he has told me about the great successes of the Custom Learning Systems Group and says, you've got to interview these guys because they've got a great message to share. So I'm really curious, what is your story? What has sparked your passion for developing loyalty in healthcare?
Take it away, Brian.
Well, you know, I had been a trainer and consultant traveling the world doing a lot of programs for the Tom Peters program 25 years ago, and ended up at a hospital called St. Mary Medical Center in Long Beach, California, and developed a new technology for engaging and empowering the front line, and saw what a profound impact you can make in the lives of people who make a difference every day, healthcare professionals. And after doing 3 or 4 more hospitals, it just was an easy decision that to abandon the corporate world and focus on healthcare, where which does the patient truly understand, the clinical treatment or the personal experience? It's all about the personal experience. And as part of my values, I believe that every human being deserves a loving, compassionate experience at a time when they need it the most. Most people don't choose to go to a hospital. They don't choose to have problems associated with their health. And so this is a time when we can really make a difference in their lives, and that fits in with my personal mission.
That's a great mission and a great reason to be involved in healthcare. Is there anything else that you would like to add, Bruce?
Well, similar to Brian, I've been with him every step of the way on that, and have traveled North America with him delivering these patient satisfaction, customer employee development workshops and has seen the profound difference it makes at hospitals, literally countrywide, Canada and the U.S. And it really is about helping to engage and empower and transform organizations into that patient-centric, caring, loving environment, because it is so important to them as they for their business future and for the patient and getting them to come back. And really that's what the focus of the training was about, is how do you give better customer service or patient satisfaction and get them to come back, but also how do you engage the employee to really understand how important they are to that experience and to the bottom line of the organization by creating that wow experience that was that was good, and I trust them and I'll come back.
You're right. The employee is a key part about the bottom line for improving the experience and why patients want to keep coming back. We go into healthcare because we want to make a difference. We want to have some part in patients' journey for recovery, and we want to be able to make a difference. And knowing how to make a difference that is going to be received by the patient in a way that says, thank you for helping me, is a really important part of both the business and our personal satisfaction about we did a good job at work today.
Well, amen to that. The challenge is this. If you look at the studies that have been done on employee engagement, 23% of staff are actively engaged, which means 77% of people working in a practice are there for the paycheck. Half of them, 50% of them, are I affectionately call them grinners, because they will contribute if leaders know how to develop. But we also need to realize that we employ whiners and slugs. Whiners are those who focus mostly on communicating a negative attitude, and slugs shouldn't be working for us, but we keep them working for us because they're a live, warm body. And I think the challenge for practice managers is to get smart about employee selection, Gene, which is your expertise, and really understand that a 1% change in employee morale equals a 2% change in the patient experience. And again, which does the patient better understand, the clinical treatment or their personal experience? And so we've got to be great at both. And to do that, we've got to look at how do we engage the front line to own the relationship with the patient. And you don't do it by taking new staff off the streets and assuming they have the skills about how to successfully communicate. Archimedes said a long time ago, give me a lever long enough and single-handedly I can move the world. And in 2015 and beyond, that lever is education. And so my message to your listeners is, if you want to not only do the job of getting your patients in and out of the practice as fast as you possibly can for the patient's convenience, access is one thing, but a caring, compassionate, empathetic, supportive experience is another, and you're going to need to educate and engage your staff to do that.
Okay. This is so exciting. This is a great way to get started with our new year. Educating and engaging. One of the things I wanted to ask you both is, if there can only be one thing that healthcare providers and clinic owners can do today to transform their patient experiences, what should that be? What would be your number one tip?
Well, Bruce, may I go first here? I'd say number one is have a plan. Have a strategic patient experience improvement plan that includes how you're going to educate and engage the front line. That includes which best practices don't you have that you should have, such as service recovery. When you mess up, you fess up and dress up. Have a strategic patient experience improvement plan that identifies how you're going to be an employer of choice and attract quality talent and keep it. Have a strategic patient experience improvement plan that sets goals for patient experience. Now, if you're going to set goals for improving patient experience, you've got to have a measurement tool. So my recommendation is begin by having a plan. Bruce?
I would say that, and of course I support that. The reality is for most people going into a hospital or a clinic for the first time is they really aren't sure what to expect. They kind of have this big, awesome picture of their health being taken care of, but it's always about the experience, and a lot of what we teach is about how to handle that. It's about meeting expectations, understanding what they are, and giving them the kind of experience they came there for. Kind of the bottom line to it is you're expecting the good healthcare outcome, but it's really the soft skills that people remember more than anything else about how you make them feel, and understanding that's so important. But I think on a hospital or clinic basis, when somebody's being admitted, it's really about understanding about the first time and the experience and how overwhelming it can be, and the fear or mistrust they have to what to expect and the ultimate outcome. So you really need to have some sort of frontline experience of kind of walking in the patient's shoes and understanding what they're about, and then giving them that expectation or exceeding it and making them feel comfortable and trusted in the outcome. And that's what a lot of the training is about, is the soft skill side of it, to understand the impact they have to that person who isn't sure what to expect, or maybe English is not their first language, or maybe they've had negative experiences before, and how that impacts their experience.
The soft skills and having a plan to be able to address that as a business and in training your employees is such a vital part. And it's interesting, our perspective as people who work in healthcare, we may be doing the same thing over and over and over again, and kind of lose sight of the fact that this might be the first experience that the patient has had in this environment, in this problem. As a healthcare provider, you may have seen hundreds or thousands of patients or families that have had the same problem, and it's old hat to you, but it's the first time for the patient, and we have to remember that in our perspective.
Well, Jean, you're absolutely right. The patient could care less that you've talked to 99 other people with the same situation that day. What they care about is that the person that they're interacting with is the face of the organization. And they define that organization. They define the clinical practice in many ways based on how they were treated on the phone. Keeping in mind that if words are only 7% of communication, tone of voice and nonverbal is 93%, that words mean so little. So just was the phone answered with a person that was friendly and had an attitude of a desire to serve? So you're absolutely right. I couldn't agree more.
Gene, I want to support your comment. Many years ago, I had a implant done. It's a dental procedure, but I'm still a patient. And for 3 months, I dreaded the actual implant. And had the dentist, told me that I would not feel any pain, I would have saved 3 months of fear about that actual operation. The whole point is this: it's really about how well you communicate with your patient about what's going to go on, what to expect, how to solve the problem, how to follow up, if you have any questions, any concerns. And for 3 months, I dreaded that day that I had to go in. And after it's all done, I go, why didn't he tell me there's going to be no pain?
And why didn't you feel that you could ask the question?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't told to.
No.
So kind of the trust that it's going to be a good operation, but just no anticipation of what the final outcome was going to be. And it certainly colors your experience and potential experience and how the stress, which is not good for your health anyways.
If I can build on that, I think that in a world of fluctuating volume and census, that it's critical that we train frontline staff to know how to manage expectations. Now, first and foremost, we want to educate them to meet expectations. We want them to teach them how to manage lineups, how to handle multiple conflicting priorities. We want to teach staff personal communication skills, because when you think about it, all customer service really is communication. We need to teach people those things of how to meet expectations, but in a world of inconsistency, when you can't meet expectations, you need to know how to manage expectations. It's not a problem to have someone sitting in a waiting room for 28 minutes when they're expecting 15, if they understand that you haven't forgotten them, if they know that you care about them. But it is a problem if you're in on your lunch hour and you didn't have an extra half an hour. And so most people, 99% of the time, are going to do whatever it takes to comply if you make an effort to understand that if you can't meet expectations, you've got to manage expectations. And I'm going to challenge you listeners. I'm going to double dog dare them, which is better than a dog dare, to imagine 3 organizations in this province or the state that they live in that consistently meet their expectations in a positive way. Notice I said in a positive way. I'm going to give you a minute to do that. And at the end of a minute, if you can't think of 3, I want you to think about, well, does your organization consistently meet your patients' expectations? And that in today's world, we need to be great at both. We need to be great at training and providing the resources to our staff to meet expectations, which is why I'm such a raving fan of AIM. Because AIM does a superb job with quality facilitators, educating practice managers and owners on how to get patients in and out in a timely way. They bring leading edge process of improvement tools, and they do that so well. What we need to do to add to that mix is that while we're getting people in and out quickly, we've got to make sure that experience is a supportive, affirming, positive one, and that we do a great job at keeping our patients well informed when they're with us, and that we manage expectations when they're not with us. And so we've got to be good at technology as well.
You know, it's really interesting that we often get very focused on our employee skills and our teaching and our education programs about technology, but it's the really basic things about managing phone calls and having that communication and how to smile and how to actively listen that really makes a big difference, doesn't it?
And smiling when that is the 140th phone call of the day as if it was the first one.
Right. It takes a lot of strength to be able to do that. So what are the key ingredients to successfully engaging the frontline staff to improve their patient experience?
Well, you know, we have a bias at Custom Learning that you'll never solve your patient experience problems until your frontline own them. And there are 3 critical best practices that will get you there. Critical best practice number 1 is to provide a 3-hour educational experience that's built around your practice's needs that help frontline staff under the 6 values of lifetime loyalty and how to consistently meet and manage expectations. Best practice number 1, you'll never solve your problems until your frontline are educated about them. Best practice number 2, and here's what I'm going to say to every practice manager. You have 2 roles. Educate your staff to know about the patient experience and inspire them to care. Get them in a classroom, obviously, is crucial. The second key best practice is service recovery. And the way we teach service, and basically service recovery is this. The way we teach it is called the complaint golden rule, that when you mess up, you fess up and dress up. And that is when things don't go the way they're supposed to, we need to teach staff that they are empowered to step in and fix the situation using their own common sense, their own good judgment, as if it was their patient. We want owners, not renters, in a patient practice today. And that 99% of the time, that service recovery simply means an apology, a blameless apology. I am so sorry. That is not the way we do things here. I apologize. 99% of the time, that will go a long way. But 1% of the time, they need to be able to dress up. So you brought somebody in, they waited an hour and a half. For whatever reason, the doctor got called away. They took a day off. They wasted a day. I'm sorry. An apology doesn't cut it. How about buying them lunch? How about a gas card for $10? How about a mug that says, oops, we care about you? Something that is unique and special to the practice. You need to have service recovery if you want to engage your staff. And the third, our belief very strongly is, if you want staff to own patient satisfaction, take your brightest and best frontline staff and train them to teach it to their peers. Why use an outside trainer when you've got this incredible talent that you have within? And in small teams, have them teach an annual patient experience workshop to their peers. The final piece here is this. Training without implementation is an hallucination. You've got to implement. And so 93% of what listeners are hearing us talk about today will be forgotten within 14 days. Now, the good news is they can go online and they can access this recording. That's fantastic, Jean, that you make this available to your listeners. But let's remember, 7% is retained after 14 days. You've got to apply it. So we recommend engaging your staff once a month in a monthly DOIT meeting, D-O-I-T, Daily Ongoing Improvement Tactics, where staff can have the opportunity to improve work processes that they know about. And, you know, it's incredibly motivational for staff to have a say and be heard. When they know things could be better, it's very rewarding for them to be able to be empowered to improve things. So there are some thoughts. There are 4 key best practices I want to share with you.
Yeah, and to support that, when the suggestions for change come from the front line as compared to leadership down, it's a lot more effective. One of the things that needs to happen, too, at some point in time is a facility and service audit of your operations as to make sure they're effective at all points in time, at all connections, at all moments of truth that the patient or prospect has with your organization, which can really eliminate backlog. But I think the real thing is making sure management has to ensure that frontline has the resources to do the job effectively and efficiently at all times, and that includes the training component behind that. And also some sort of measurement of the attributes of the leadership about how their frontline people see them, so they understand how they are perceived, so they can change and match what the expectation of the staff is to what they need from effective leadership.
There is so much that individual staff employees in an organization can do that would bring about change and bring about improvements and improve both the patient satisfaction and their own personal employees' self-satisfaction about the work that they've done. But the employees individually can't do this alone. So what is the clinic manager's role to motivate the staff to care about the patient?
Well, you've asked a great question, because is the clinic manager or is the clinic leader? See, leadership is creating the future with and through others. And I'd like to think of these practice managers as practice leaders. And a leader has a vision and they know that things could be better, and they have the ability to make some time and utilize some resources to make them better. I refer to management as maintaining and administering the past, and we all have both jobs. We need to run things the way we set out to run them, and we need to make things better. And so I challenge your practice leaders that are listening today to step number 1, as Bruce just talked about, conduct an honest assessment of how you're doing. How are you doing, and how do you know? And the best way to conduct that assessment is to let your patients vote. Let your patients vote using a patient satisfaction survey. If you're not doing one, I encourage you to do one. Now, the best surveys are those that have been tested for bias and are not self-serving. And so what you want to do is utilize, AIM has an excellent survey. That's one way to go. There's also a survey called CG CAPS for groups and clinics. And the great thing about CG CAPS is you can benchmark your outcomes against other clinics in Canada and the United States. I really like that idea. But you need to have a tool that will let you know how you're doing, and the only thing that matters as perceived by patients and their family members. Yes, of course, I want to know what staff think, but more importantly, the patient. So a patient survey is one way to know. Practice leaders need to initiate that, because the rest will be self-evident. If you listen to your patients, they'll tell you everything you need to know about how to improve and how to keep them satisfied because they'll tell you. That needs to be the primary source of improvement. But let's also listen to staff, as Bruce talked about, for their suggestions. Let's also look at the option of conducting a focus group with staff if we're not sure. A focus group with frontline staff, and a focus group with patients, and a focus group with family members. What I like about focus groups is if you're not sure about a new service to offer, a new service line to provide, are you doing the right thing? Bring your patients together, buy them a lunch, use an outside facilitator, and get some honest feedback. So there are a number of ways that practice leaders can identify a vision for the future. Also, do you have a mission, vision, and values? Have you clarified who you are and what is your vision for providing a world-class experience for your patients? What are the values? What are the things that matter the most of how you treat your staff and your patients? So those things are all great building blocks and a good place to start. And then the third thing I think every practice leader needs to have is a plan, an annual plan for engaging the staff, for improving the patient experience, and for supporting providers.
Yeah, and a slightly different way of looking at that is in my book on trust, I have a module called SAM, which is if you really want to engage and empower, motivate people, just SAM them. And so the S is about setting high expectations when they're new hire, when they've been promoted, when they've been given more responsibilities. The A is the important part. It's about acknowledgement and recognition. And there's a stat out there that says that when people understand that what they do is important, when they get acknowledged for it, productivity can go up by up to 40%. And I'm going, even if it's not 40%, even 10 or 20%, think about the profound impact, because we grow up by growing because we're acknowledged for what we do, by being recognized and thanked for. And if we don't get that at work, we don't contribute, we don't trust, we don't give our best, we aren't productive, we aren't creative. And it's really a really important consideration. And I just want to go back to why this is so important, especially when we're talking about nursing staff. In 2013, the most trusted professions in the U.S., number 1 was nurses. In Canada was number 4. In the U.S., doctors are number 3. In Canada was number 5. Nowhere in any survey does healthcare ever come in the top 10 trusted industries, which is interesting. But certainly nurses are number 1, doctors are number 3 or 4, depending on what survey we're talking about. We trust people. We want to believe in what they're doing is important for us. We need to make sure that they understand that's the patient's expectation of them, that they will give them what they came for. And it goes back to the communication, which is what I really like talking about.
It is interesting that patients responded in the survey that they trust individuals even if they don't trust the industry.
Yeah.
And so the individual healthcare provider, that employee that's in your organization, has a huge amount of power and leverage and influence on that patient experience, which ultimately results in that business experience.
And ultimately,
how we like to say it is that business to them is the frontline employee in front of them, and they really represent the whole industry. So whoever's providing the services is the company, is the hospital, is the clinic, is the facility to them, and the employee needs to understand that they are the business to the customer, to the patient.
Well, and I want to add to that, Bruce, that trust with the provider and staff has statistical impact on compliance with the clinical recommendations. People get better faster and follow doctors' guides if they trust them, and therefore it influences wellness, it influences outcomes substantially. If you look at studies that have been done about patients' knowledge of what the physician talked to them when they leave a medical practice, barely 50% know what they're supposed to do with the medications that were prescribed to them. So how we communicate and how we create trust has a very significant bearing on their wellness after they've left us.
Yeah, I like to call it the happiness factor. And interestingly enough, real medication or proposed medication, the placebo effect is almost as effective, which is how you think about things, as effective as the medication.
Wow. There is so much information, and it is very exciting and motivating, and we only have 30 minutes here today, so we need to be able to kind of pull this together. As a clinic manager or an employee who's listening to the interview today, you shared with us some great inspiration about why we need to do this, that we have a great amount of power, and we need to be able to make sure that we're providing our employees the tools that they need so that they can be successful in managing what they do on a day-by-day basis, engaging the patients, making that patient experience successful, and improving a direct relationship to their recovery and their benefit and improvement as far as healthcare, which is why they're coming to see us in the first place. We've got some tools that you suggested. We've talked about AIM. We've talked about CG CAPS, which is the benchmarking patient survey tool. Now, you've also offered some very generous gifts, and I want to go back and review that really quickly. So anybody who's listening to us live today can log into the chat button and see the email contact information to be able to reach Brian and Bruce and request your gifts for the ebooks right off of the website there. So log into the chat button and make sure that you can get the email address to request your gifts. You have a conference that's coming up in California, a great experience to be able to go to California to learn more. How can the listeners today do more with the information that you've provided? What are our next steps to say, this is really exciting, I want to learn more, where can we go and what can we do?
Well, first of all, I want to extend an invitation to the Healthcare Service Excellence Conference. It is a world-class educational opportunity, 3 days, February 26, 27, 23, 24, 25, my apologies, in Long Beach, California. Go on our website, healthcareserviceexcellence.com. I like to tell people next to their high school graduation night and their honeymoon night, this will be 3 of the most exciting days of their life. This is a world-class event with people from all over the United States and Canada, and come check us out. Secondly, do take advantage. I'm offering 2 complimentary books today. One is my book, Satisfaction Guaranteed, How to Satisfy Every Customer Every Time. It's an e-format. And the second book, Keep Your Nurses and Healthcare Professionals for Life. And both books provide much of the background and context to some of the ideas we've been sharing today. So feel free to request those, and if we can provide any further information, feel free to give me a call.
Excellent. I'd like to be able to continue this conversation. One of the things that we've done as information managers is we've created some LinkedIn groups. So I encourage everybody to enjoy our LinkedIn group called Practice Management Nuggets. If you're on LinkedIn, just look for the group, Practice Management Nuggets, and we can continue the conversation. Share your experiences, your questions, your resources, the hits and misses in your practice so that we can learn from each other, continue to network, and to continue to improve the patient transformation. This has been really exciting, not nearly enough time, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to invite you again as guests so we can continue the conversation some more. Brian, any last comments before we wrap up?
The speed of the leader is the speed of the team. For everyone listening, what you do and how you model the way you communicate with everyone, more importantly patients, is what your people will do. The most powerful attribute you've got as a leader is example.
Okay. Bruce?
I'll just sign off with the comment that treat people well, they will respond well, you'll get great expectation. Great results from that, I should say.
Okay. We are delighted that you've joined us for Practice Management Nuggets. I have so many questions and pages of notes that just reflects how much that you've inspired me today about transforming patients, the opportunity for businesses and clinic managers to inspire their staff to make a difference in a patient's life. I'm so glad that we've had that chance to meet today. We've talked about communication being a critical, important piece, about managing your best practices in your organization. We've talked about tools and resources. Brian and Bruce have been very generous in providing some additional tools today, and you just need to send an email and you'll have access to that information. Thank you for your time and sharing your practice management nuggets with us. To our audience, let's stay connected. We are here just about every Thursday with a live interview. The interviews are available on a replay only for a limited time. You can share your information as a member with information managers, and you have access to all of these great interviews all of the time at a time that best fits your schedule. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. Send us an invitation. You can also request to join our private members group in LinkedIn, Practice Management Nuggets. I'm on Twitter at InfomanLTD, and we're now on Facebook at Information Managers Ltd. I'd be tickled pink if you liked us. My email is jean@informationmanagers.ca, and each month I host a practice management Q&A where you ask the questions and our members contribute to the discussion and to the sharing. Brian and Bruce, thank you so much for joining us with Practice Management Nuggets. It has been great to have you. You are both an inspiration about inspiring and walking the talk about loyalty. Thank you very much.
Our pleasure. Thanks, Jean.
This is Jean Eaton, your Practice Management Mentor, asking you to stay tuned. I look forward to seeing you again at one of our upcoming events.